I know we are so excited. Thank you for quieting down. So we have a treat this morning, and I know as you all walked in, you saw a robot, which is really exciting. So we're gonna learn a little bit about an actual robot. We've been reading the book Wild Robot for the past couple of weeks, right? And today you get to hear about someone who made one and has a lot of fun with them. So it's gonna be really exciting. I want you to please sit flat, put your hands in your lap. Whatever you do, you can't touch the robot. And I'm gonna do a few introductions. What? You broke the rules. That's okay. We have a few important people with us today. Mr. Ralph Valancisi works at Central Office, and he does a whole lot with technology, so we give him a quiet welcome wave. And Ms. Sandra Fayoas, who is also here from Central Office, who helps us out with all sorts of things. Dr. Estrella, our superintendent, who allowed all of this to be possible. We thank her for being here. You all know Mr. Olson, our assistant principal. We especially thank Mrs. Niger for connecting us with this experience. Lots of work on her part, and Ms. Ludwig for doing all sorts of things in science, and I know some of you are prepared a little bit later. So, without further ado, we have here today Mr. McChord, who is not used to talking to young children, but he's going to share his journey with you, and I want you to please be good listeners. It's all yours.
Yeah, I don't know if this one's on.
Good morning. Wow, that's actually a lot better than with the adults, so that's positive. Yeah, so I'm used to talking to people that are a lot older than you. So I figured at least I would start and be like, I too was a kid once. I even had a whole bunch of hair, and so those are some pictures of me. But I really didn't like school. I know. I actually made a whole thing of not doing my homework, and just was really frustrated. I actually ended up getting into computers because in 3rd grade my handwriting was so bad no one could read it. And they were like, well, I guess we'll have him type so that at least he can complete his work that way. And I was a really slow typist. Actually, I couldn't even go out to recess because I had to stay in and type all my work one key at a time on the computer because I was really bad at it. And I hated school so much that I was like, you know what, I'm actually not going to do my work. And I learned how to program, and I started writing games for myself on the computer while they thought that I was doing my homework. Not to say that you should do those things, but it is a case where if school doesn't feel like it fits for you, that's okay. And you can still go on to do a bunch of crazy stuff. And I was actually so bad at school that when I finally got to the point where I was graduating college, I had really bad grades, and I was afraid I wasn't going to get a job. And so what I decided to do is I was going to start my own company so that I didn't have to deal with getting a job and trying to tell people about my bad grades. And so I started a company called Data, and this company did something really boring, as boring as you could think of. We made copies of the information on people's computers so that if their computers broke, we could get them their information back. And that doesn't sound very interesting, but we were like, I bet we can do this a little bit cheaper. I think I can do a little bit better. And even though it was really boring, once you find that problem or that thing, and it could be, for some people it's like kicking a soccer ball in the goal. And for me it was how can I do this one thing a little better? And so I started with that, and I had some friends, and we just started in a basement. We joked that this is how early people showed up at my company, that they just came in a box. And we built this thing, which is actually just we made it out of craft supplies and with a soldering iron, and we wrote a lot of computer code for it, but we had to start somewhere. And we went and got old computers, and we were like, oh, we'll just put all the information on all these old computers, and that's actually how we got started, which is crazy. And so it was very unglamorous. But one of the things I really liked is I liked like having lots of screens and space. Like it was like, oh, I could have, you know, really big space for my computer, all kinds of stuff. And so like we got lots of screens. I tinkered around and built like big scoreboards and stuff showing how much information we had. And then we moved out and eventually like got a real office. And then this is like computers actually like at the internet, which is kind of wild. Like when you know, use a phone or an iPad and you download something, like where does it come from? And eventually we got big enough that we got to put our computers at the internet. And it's in these big rooms with these big racks. And this is actually what Datto's computers look like when we got really, really big. And so everything that you kind of see on your phone or see on a tablet, like this is where it comes from, is these giant places, and they're called data centers. And it's pretty wild. They're actually really, really loud. Usually the people that work there wear headphones all day, like big headphones. And there are these aisles, and this aisle is actually called a hot aisle. It's like very, very hot, and then you go right to the other side, and it's like very, very cold. And basically the computers suck in all the cold air, do work, which makes the air hot, and then they blow a hot air on the hot side. It's kind of crazy. So this is what it looks like when there's no computers in there, but just is sort of a surreal thing. I'm trying to find stuff that's relevant. One of the things that we want to do is like, even as we got bigger and like when you become an adult, like you can still choose to do a whole bunch of ridiculous, silly things. Like you don't have to get super serious. And so, like we always had crazy stuff in our office. People wanted lots of screens at their desks. We built like a video wall thing. We put a computer in a fish tank and filled it with mineral oil. That's actually Hurricane Sandy. But then like we got liquid nitrogen and we froze stuff. And it turns out like you make ice cream that way if you just like mix milk and sugar with liquid nitrogen. But we were like, we want liquid nitrogen in the office because it's fun to freeze things and it's super cool. One time we ran a promo. I don't know if this is going to work. It is going to work. And we bought a whole bunch of other old, out-of-date computers out of the field, and we decided we were going to take all the parts out of them and do a big Domino's. And so we came in on the weekend and we set up all these hard drives. This is actually where information is stored. It's like in these boxes. There's like spinning disks inside there. But yeah, so we took all these old ones and we lined them all up. And then eventually we got tired of lining up the hard drives, so we just took the actual computers from the data center and we lined those up. And we made this huge Domino's of all these old devices that like people were trading in. And this is before we sent them out to be recycled. Yeah, you can do lots of fun, crazy, silly stuff along the way, which is kind of cool. Yeah. We wanted really cool offices. We wanted a giant Lego wall in our office, and so we did that. We opened an office in upstate New York, and we built a slide that actually goes down 3 stories, connecting all the floors in the office, just because we thought that would be super fun. And like people liked it so much, we like added places that they like needed to take a nap or like were working late. But yeah, we had a big light bright and all kinds of crazy stuff there. All these people came sort of wild that they cared about something so boring, but that's actually one of the things that's interesting is that like these things that may not seem very exciting, like there are whole worlds around all of them. Like there's a whole group of people that will gather and get so excited about a folding chair because like somebody has to make all the stuff that exists in this world. And so in our little niche where we make copies of information, all these people showed up and are excited to hear about what's new about something truly so boring, but it's kind of cool. But eventually, Datto got really, really big, and this is in New York City, and it became a publicly traded company, and I decided to retire from Datto, and so I left, and I was like, oh no, well, what am I going to do now? And that's when, like, trying to figure out what to do next was a big deal. And so first I gave a bunch of money to my school that I went to for college that they like still let me graduate with really low and really bad grades. And they built this cool building where people can work on all kinds of robot stuff. I built the world's largest googly eyes. Yeah. And hung those. That was on the building. Doesn't look like that anymore, but I do have those googly eyes, and I'm in the Guinness World Records for the world's largest googly eyes. I filled someone's office with ball pit balls. which turns out like it's a really funny and expensive practical joke. But now I have a giant ball pit. I can confirm you can't swim in a ball pit. You actually sink when you try to swim. But the good news is you can still breathe because there's lots of space there. My dog loves it. My nephews love it. But yeah. So then, quickly, these are like when you hear robots, right, and you listen to stories about robots. This is actually more what they end up looking like in the real world. And so this is part of a giant machine that does laundry. Because everybody hates doing laundry. And so this is a company that I'm a part of, and they have this huge machine, and you put dirty clothes in one side of the machine, and it wash, dry, clean, fold, sort, all of it, automatically, all with robots. And it turns out it's a really hard problem, and teaching the robots how to do laundry is actually really hard. Like figuring out how to separate all the different clothes, like you imagine your dirty clothes bin, and like how do I make sure that I'm only picking up one thing? Because if you bring like a bright red sock and a white towel into the same laundry washer, you will turn everything pink, and people will fire you. So like you need a system that can identify and separate all of that stuff. And then the actual process of like making clothes flat, these giant machines, and there's like a big table, and there's actually blades that come down, and that's not a very good piece of flat laundry, but like we'll go through the whole process and fold it and make it just perfect. But the machine is bigger than this gym, which is kind of wild, but can process like an entire town's laundry. So that's what a lot of like robots end up looking like in the real world, and I've been working with this company for a long time. 5 years later, when I'm up in Boston, they actually do my laundry, and like they are coming, but it takes a while with a lot of these things. With that, I actually started a company to help other companies and help other people build businesses and have the same story that I did, and find other people that maybe like they didn't like school or they don't like their job and they wanted to do something better. And so that's actually what I spend most of my time doing. And then I also started a robot combat league, and so this actually happens here in Norwalk. You can actually go to this, and so people come and they build their own little robots that they drive, so the robots aren't really thinking for themselves, and they fight them against each other. And some of them have, saws, and some of them have flamethrowers, and some of them, they're like, oh, my design is my robot is so cute, no one would want to touch it. And so they create every different version of the robot, and it's really cool that this started as just sort of a side project, and then all these people showed up to come see it, and people wanted to come talk about it and be like, hey, this is again, like, people got really excited about something that they're like, I want to make my job talking about fighting robots. And so that's these people's jobs, which is wild, just that there's so many different things that you can do out there, and there's definitely no way that they were sitting in, as a 5th grader being like, yeah, I'm going to talk about robots, but that's what these guys do. And then we wanted to share it with more than just the people that could fit in the building, so we built this whole control room where we can like make videos for YouTube and make videos for people's iPads and for their phones, etc., so that people can see the robots anywhere. And what happened is it means that people have come and flown in from all over the world because they found out about this. They came to Norwalk to fight robots. And it's people from Australia even like come to fight robots like every other month, which is wild, just how far they travel to come do it. So I guess a little more, and then we'll open up to questions. Recently, there is an island that's actually relatively near my house in Norwalk. So this whole site used to be a giant power plant. Made all the electricity to make all the lights run. And when you look from the roof, I could see it from my house. This is actually what it looks like from my house. And my wife and I were kayaking, and it was like, this would be such a cool thing. Norwalk has been such a great place for us, and we've been able to build a business here and do all kinds of stuff. That it would be awesome if we could make this site somewhere where everyone can go, instead of right now, somewhere where no one can go. And so we called and we're like, can we tour it? And we got to see inside, and it's crazy inside. It's like the biggest haunted house you've ever been in. And it's actually kind of similar to like the robot machine that we just showed. And in fact, like the entire building is basically just a big robot that makes electricity. But yeah, it has a big control room inside with like so many buttons everywhere, and it's just really, really big. One of the things that we were thinking is actually this crane. We're thinking it looks a lot like a claw machine, and that on the journey to what it's going to become, it might temporarily be the world's largest claw machine. And so we might set a new record for that. We have to build a claw that attaches to it, but stay tuned. Yeah, so just a little bit more. It even has a cafeteria in it. But so you can see there's all this beautiful wildlife there. And so we want to make sure that we're doing the right stuff to protect it and help it grow. There's these forests that no one has been in because this whole place has been fenced away. And so these forests are really, really cool. They're also interesting because this area was actually all pollution, and it's basically all coal ash. When the power plant was making power, they would take the ash and they would just dump it. And so they ended up with this huge area of dumped ash. And when they stopped dumping the ash, nature is so cool that it just blew in the winds. And it turns out that these birch trees like acidic soil. And so the dirt had a lot of acid in it from the power plant. And so they took over. And so you have this whole forest of almost all birch trees. And so it's really, really pretty. But they have come and recolonized it, and they're actually, through the process of growing there, cleaning the site again. And so it's really neat to see, and it's something that we want to make sure that we can help keep going as we make the site available to everybody. We found out that there's all kinds of cool animals that live there, and so there's tons and tons of birds that come by. You see these osprey all the time, and they're always carrying a fish, which like looks really cool and is sad for the fish, but because it's carrying the fish to feed it to its babies. But yeah, there's also lots of oyster, and then a few times a year, the horseshoe crab come. And horseshoe crab, I don't know if you've ever seen one, they basically look like aliens from outer space. They have some at the Maritime Aquarium, but they all come all at once on one evening to go and have their babies. And the horseshoe crabs that come, they're really big, and they're also really old. It takes them like 25 years to get to that size, and they come back to the same beach that they came from originally. And horseshoe crab are also crazy because no one knows how to actually grow them like in a zoo. We can only make it work out in the ocean. And it's something the Maritime Aquarium is trying to do, and they have some horseshoe crab that they've been growing, and they're like 12 years old, and the horseshoe crab's like this big. It's so tiny. And so it's just really interesting, and I don't know, I kind of geek out about a horseshoe crab, but yeah, because they like look at the stars to figure out how to navigate. It's just a really weird animal. But yeah, we want to make this somewhere that you guys can go and enjoy, and that's the plan. And so the idea is, how do we take this thing and create a beach and pools for people to swim in and a lawn, while also preserving the forest and connecting the wetlands, and making it somewhere where you can see more of the animals, interact with them. We spent a ton of time and worked with a ton of different experts, because I don't know anything about making parks, in order to do that. And so you see, actually, this is the whole area here where we're adding a whole bunch of fresh water so that birds can stop on their way. And I know you guys have been talking about a pollinator pathway. This site is part of the North American Flyway. And so as birds move from Canada down south and come back, it's basically a big highway right over Long Island Sound. And so we want to make this a really nice place for them to stop, get a drink of water, take a rest on their way moving forward. And birds do that now, but only because like there's some ponds and stuff that happen because somebody didn't clean them and they just filled with rainwater. And so we're going to create a whole freshwater ecosystem for them. And there'll be places you can go and watch and learn about the birds too. So yeah, there'll be boardwalks, and this is a little bit of what that looks like. And that's kind of all I have. Yeah,
question and answer. So raise your hands if you have a question, and I will come around with the microphone so that you guys can ask them.
My name is Victoria, and my question is, how do you make sure that, how do you make the robots get inside the cage and like not break like what they're battling in?
So, like when we have a robot combat event, so the cage is made out of lots of really thick layers of basically like a bulletproof glass. And what we do is we have 2 layers. And so there's one layer that's thick, but not the thickest, and that's on the inside. And then we have an even thicker layer after that. And so that gives us a safety check that if a robot breaks the inside layer, we know we have to replace it, and we've got to like make it stronger. But we always know that outside layer is even thicker than the inside layer. So we do a lot of testing to make sure that it's safe, because we would not want anybody to get hurt. Yeah.
My name is Inman, and how long do you think it would take to like code all of the like robots to do all this stuff?
So the answer is forever. And maybe I'll repeat the question. Just so the answer was, how long would it take to code all the stuff to teach the robots to do
Like
it?
how long would it take to like make the robots like understand how to do this and how to do that, and like make them and stuff?
So the robots keep getting better, because one of the neat things is like all of the code that people have written before, we use all of that, and we just keep adding new code and adding new code to help make them smarter. And so now there are tools that you can talk to back and forth, and they'll actually explain stuff to you, and they can help teach you things. And eventually those tools might be able to like teach the robot how to do stuff, and we can teach the robot how to ask back and forth. But we also want to be careful as we do that, because like you want to make sure that the robots like are doing the things that we want them to do and not doing things that we don't want them to do. Yeah. Next.
Could I join you? My name is Sean McGee, and I would like to, I'm like kind of like, I'm good at like math and stuff like that, but I would like to, I would love if I could like do something, because you sound really cool.
Well, thank you. I think not yet would be the answer. I would say like there are lots of stuff that you can do to get involved. You can come to a robot event. We have kits and stuff where you can practice building one and interacting with one. And you can stay curious and learn about all this stuff. But at some point soon, and certainly like we're looking for ways for you too to go out and be able to explore the island before it's done. But not yet, unfortunately.
Hi, my name is Sophia Arata. Have you made like a robot? What was his name or her name?
I've made a lot of robots. Most of them are bad. Most of them have very silly names like Fluffy or Brett or Bob or Brick. They tend to not be very smart. But it's fun, the process, because you can make them do and be anything that you want.
My name is William, and wait. I forgot. How big were the eyeballs that you made?
The eyeballs are 12 feet in diameter, which is, we might be able to find bigger ones. We can make them for the school.
My name is John, and what are you going to do with the power plant once you're done with the island?
The idea is the power plant will be somewhere, there's actually going to be a bunch of pools and restaurants inside the power plant, and the money from the restaurants will help support and keep the park nice. And so it's going to work to help support the park.
I'm Camilla, and what's the robot dog's name?
It doesn't really have one. Like, I know. What should we call it? That was a dangerous question.
Maybe what we'll have to do is we'll take some suggestions and we can send them to you. If you
Sounds good. And we will make sure the robot gets its name etched on it, and it will come back.
My name is Alex, and does any of your robots have a battery percentage?
What was the question?
Do any of your robots have a battery percentage? So how do you know, I guess, when to recharge them?
Yeah, so, I mean, this robot has 4 dots on the side, and when they're all 4 green, it's full, and when they're all gone, it's empty. But almost every robot has battery percentage, and in robotics, like actually figuring out how you're going to power your robot and making it last a long time on the battery is a really big deal, and you spend a lot of time and effort thinking about it.
My name's Kendall, and how long do you think it'll take to finish with the power plant and stuff?
So our goal is to have it open by 2030, which sounds like a very long time from now, but in the normal scale of these projects, it's actually very fast.
My name is Adrian, and my question is, how can I build a robot? Because I've been to the Norwalk Public League,
Yeah.
and I really liked it, and I actually have robot parts at home because sometimes they're nice enough and they give you the robot parts.
So you just get started. Like the thing is that even if you're not sure, you can always just keep trying again. And maybe a place to start if you want to is like a remote control car or something like that. And then how do you add something to a remote control car? How can you get it to do something a little different? But there's lots and lots of tools and tutorials online. And there's probably books in your library that have information about the robot stuff. Certainly for me, when I learned how to write programs for computers, was actually from taking books out of the library at the school.
My name is Olivia, and my question is, how many robots have you made?
Hundreds.
My name is Sarah, and I was wondering if you remember your first robot.
I think the first stuff I made was like a crane, it had a string and could then go down and pick something up. And the idea was could it pick up a drink and bring it across the room and bring it over. And ended up putting up all these different strings connected to motors in my bedroom. And then my parents noticed and were very unhappy because I had put holes in the wall to put the stuff in. So don't put holes in the wall. That will definitely make your parents mad. But yeah, that was the first sort of robotic thing I guess I built.
My name is Sal, and will we ever be able to have a tour of Manresa Island?
Sure, so your parents can tour Manresa Island now, and hopefully everybody will be able to go there in just a few years. Yeah, I mean, I can maybe do something silly. that the people that designed this robot spent a lot of time looking at animals. And this robot is basically a copy of an animal. Like, we call it a robot dog, and it's because it looks a lot like a dog, it acts like a dog, but the way its joints work and the way that it moves is different than like a remote control car in that it can walk. And the motions, it has shoulders and elbows and like all the same joints that a dog would have. And it took a very, very long time for people to be able to figure this stuff out. And so when I was a kid, these didn't exist. We had all the motors and we had all the joints, but figuring out how to teach the computer how to make them work like a spring and make them move in all different directions has been something that's taken a really long time. And it's interesting how all the different pieces that come before like actually play into like a robot today. And so I don't know if you've ever seen like the hoverboards that you guys stand on. Yeah. So the technology that made the hoverboards possible is a big part of what makes dogs like this possible now. And so those motors and the fact that the hoverboard can just sort of sense like when you're leaning forward and leaning back, like this has a lot of those same sensors and is built on a lot of the same parts. And so it's interesting, you know, this robot is almost certainly the precursor to a robot that will be able to stand up and walk around just like us, that we might be able to talk to, and like those are coming in the future. And the company that designs the parts for this is looking to make parts for that. And so each of these pieces add on, and when somebody asked that question about sort of the code, each of the pieces of work that people do along the way all add towards where robots are going. And so it's neat because you'll see one piece now, and like it will contribute to what robots will be in the future.
So as you mentioned that, and we're reading The Wild Robot right now, and she adapts to her environment and she learns to speak the different languages. What are your predictions? Do you think in the future, when these kids grow up, will we have robots that can do stuff like that?
I think certainly we will talk to robots a lot. Whether or not we have robots in our home that can do stuff, I think will be a choice. And it will be a question of like, do you want that or do you not want a machine walking around your home all the time? And that feeling that like the robot dog is both cool and creepy at the same time applies exponentially more to human robots.
Great, thank you. We now have a presentation for you. If you want to take a seat, and we'll just switch computers for a second. All right, can we have our third graders come up?
Welcome to Cranbury School. We are third graders and we would like to tell you about something special we do here. The reason why our school chose the Wild Robot as our school-wide books this year is because our school is focused on environmentalism. We are a part of the Pollinator Pathway program. The Pollinator Pathway program is an organization that helps create safe places for pollinators like bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. They inspire people to grow native plants and reduce pesticides and create connected green spaces where pollinators can thrive. Their goal is to protect important animals and help the environment stay healthy.
Here at Cranbury, we have our own Pollinator Pathway garden. In it, we grow and protect a variety of native plants, such as Joe Pyeweed, blazing star, purple coneflower, sweet pepper bush. We also have a welcome garden at the front of our school filled with more native plants.
Something very special about Cranbury is our partnership with Oyster Shell Park right here in Norwalk. Each year, one of the grades help grow more native plants for the environment.
We also work with Masters Gardens to learn the best tips in helping the environment. Therefore, we had to have to sever the plant and that eventually we made sure feed back to school and went to taught them.
A few months later, we start a process called overwintering. We take the native seeds from oyster shell and plant them in plastic bottles. Then we leave them outside of our school to begin the growth process.
In the spring, we head back to Oyster Shell Park to plant our seeds that have finished overwintering.
This is special because we get to see how the seeds we planted in the winter have grown and are ready to help the environment. Planting native plants is helpful to our environment because they belong here. They help feed animals like bees, butterflies, and birds. When we plant them, we make a happy home for nature.
We also enjoy sharing what we've learned with others. By teaching our families and friends about pollinators, we hope to inspire them to take care of the environment too.
Today we're here at Oyster Shell Park in South Norwalk, and our second grade students are coming for the 4th year in a row to harvest native pollinator seeds and make sure that this park is sustainable and beautiful for generations to come. We are lucky to be partnering with the Norwalk River Watershed Association to work here in the park and harvest native seeds.
My name is Susan Mogul. I'm a Connecticut Master Gardener and a member of the Norwalk River Watershed Association Board of Directors. Today we're welcoming the second graders from Cranbury School in Norwalk to Oyster Shell Park. This is a great opportunity for them to come out and experience a local environment and identify seeds, harvest them to bring them back to their school to plant. This type of work and the curriculum behind it is incredibly important for children, in part because with climate change all around us, so many of them and young adults have developed a climate anxiety. And a program like this that's tied to curriculum and what they're learning in school, that they actually bring back to the classroom and can see the product and fruits of their labor is very empowering for students, and it actually helps them to feel as if they are making a positive contribution, which they are.
Something from the seeds. Something will grow from the seed. Isn't that fascinating? What is it?
I'm Louise Washer, and I'm both the president of the Norwalk River Watershed Association, and I also am on the board of the Pollinator Pathway. I'll just give you like a brief overview of what the Pollinator Pathway is, the idea behind it. It's to engage people and give them the tools to restore habitat for pollinators. We're losing our pollinators. People are aware. Declines, the monarch butterflies down 96%, and we're losing our bees. What can we do in our backyard, in our schools, in our towns? And we've all gotten together and said we really need to focus on bringing the kids in and their parents by way of the kids to just learn about these ideas to help us start the process of restoring the landscape.
Our students are able to see their impact, not just on their own lives in their own school, but on the community around them.
I'm Debbie DiChico. I have 2 grandchildren in Cranbury. I'm a master gardener who wanted to use her volunteer hours teaching children gardening. If a child is environmentally mindful at a young age, then it becomes a natural process for them, and it's just part of what they do. It's just part of what I do, but it's something that people got away from, and now we're encouraging the younger children again to be with nature.
We are also very interested in Manresa Island Park and the changes happening there. We are very happy to hear that the island is being improved to help the environment and make it a better place for wildlife.
We want to know if there is any way we as the Cranbury community can help with the work you're doing on Manresa Island. We'd love to know if we can help plant native plants there or do anything else to support your work. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Native species are super important to us, and we would love to figure out a way for you guys to come and be able to help Manresa Island contribute to the pollinator pathway. Right now, our work, we have to make the site safe for people to go on because there's so much pollution there. But we're working to make some small areas right at the front like safe very, very soon so that maybe those could start contributing right away. And then overall, everything that you guys are learning connects so much with what the team that's working on Manresa cares about and are thinking about and implementing, and like it will be so important because it's such a large location and will have an ability to affect the whole Norwalk ecosystem.